Mac, tell me, in general terms, how are electric cooperatives such as yours at a disadvantage when it comes to accessing capital through the federal tax incentives?
Yeah, so because we are not for profit and don't generate obviously large amounts of revenues for which you would pay taxes on, using tax incentives doesn't really have any value to us. And so, and not just in our case right now, obviously, as you well know, working on how do we do that with respect to a carbon capture facility, but I'll reference back. So we have 6 wind contracts right now, all of those actually with NextEra Energy Resources, because they can figure out how you monetize those tax credits. And so the disadvantage, if you will, is that we're using an incentive mechanism that really doesn't have value for at least 2 sectors of the electric utility industry. So municipals and cooperatives both no ability to use that incentive. And so you look at the pie chart that suggests that cooperatives and municipals at times aren't engaging in the clean energy transition. I would argue part of that is that they've not been afforded the opportunity to be able to do so as it relates to their own set of ownership. Doesn't mean that they don't have it. Like in our case, 42% of our supply already comes from non-carbon based resources. So that's clearly one of them, Senator Hoeven, is that we use mechanisms, and tax credits aren't the only place that we've chosen to use incentive programs, but they are the most prominent.
Right, so you can use a counterparty, but then that diminishes the value of that tax credit to you, correct?
Yeah, there's always some, banks and lenders don't do anything for free, right? So there's always a transaction fee or a portion of it that they're going to take off the top for the risk of converting those tax credits. So, and it's substantial. So if you look at the current project that we're working on today, we estimate somewhere between 10 and 13% will go for the conversion of those tax credits, or finding those partners, or someone taking additional risks. And so there's the revenues fundamentally that go to, and I don't want that to suggest that I don't appreciate what banks do and others, but they will take a substantial portion of the project costs that could otherwise go into the development of infrastructure, but for that mechanism.
So how would the Carbon Capture Modernization Act and Carbon Capture Utilization and Storage Tax Credit Amendment Act legislation, that bipartisan legislation I've introduced along with Senator Tina Smith and others, how would that help you?
So that allows us to then bypass having to go find a series of tax aggregators and tax equity investors, and essentially allow the project to move forward and that equivalent tax to be paid back directly in a way that would help us then pay down the debt and the costs associated with the project. So it is it's a substantial benefit in that, and it substantially simplifies the number of transactions and the pieces that you have to put together as well. So the legal documents get significantly smaller in my mind as it relates to having to deal with trying to put all the tax equity provisions together.
So nationally, how would that direct pay option for 45Q and 48A provide certainty for all those that want to move forward with carbon capture and storage across the country?
Yeah, so how it provides certainty is that you then know it's there and that you know it is available. So you aren't then left to the whims of trying to find individuals who have tremendous tax burdens that they're going to offset by use of the tax credit.
So that certainty, you think, would really help advance the ball in terms of making carbon capture and storage commercially viable and getting companies across the country to do it?
Yes, I think it is a tremendous benefit to be able to advance the projects to have direct pay. And not only for us, and we talk about it in carbon capture for, in our case, obviously a coal unit, ethanol facilities who are currently looking at, can we capture carbon off the backside of ethanol, are in exactly the same position. They don't generally generate huge tax burdens that you would have to offset by making the investment. So it's well beyond kind of what happens with respect to, in our case, a coal unit in North Dakota. It's gas units, ethanol facilities, wherever you might want to capture carbon in a way that the tax credits are advantageous.
Right, so it's important for renewable energy like biofuels as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Bruno.